Hello. Oh, it says I am live. Am I live alone? It's awful dark out here, isn't it? Oh my. Well, I should be able to read. Oh, maybe. Uh-oh. Reading might be a problem. I may have to move somewhere else. Oh, but I wanted to sit down so I could put this down, this, that, so I could turn the pages and read. Okay, well, time to reevaluate my options. I could just go across the street. I really didn't want to do that though, but I suppose I could, but I don't really want to. I was going to sit on one of the doorstops at one of these stores, but then I saw little rodents running around, so I decided I didn't like that idea too much either. So, anyway, ooh, I think I might find something that is workable here. Mm-mm-mm. Oh, cool. Wish. There's a little stone that says wish. Wish for what? I don't know. Well, that's not bright enough there either. Hmm. Let's see. Ta-ta. Um, hmm. That little wish stone fell, and I would love to find where it went because I didn't get a chance to finish reading it before I knocked it every which way. Oh well. 5 minutes to go. Still don't know exactly how I want to play this. See, um, I had originally planned to sit by the outside at one of the restaurants that I figured I'd have dinner at, and this, that, and the other thing. But they're closed. They close on Mondays. Yay! Thanks for the warning. Okay, well this is good. I can see real well here. Some of my destinations have errors. Oh, here we go again. Hey Sarah, what's up? How are ya? Another boring night in the UK. Don't tell me. I think you jinxed me. I think you jinxed me at the Irish festival the other day. Because oh gosh, what were we 15 minutes in when I lost the signal? I don't know. I didn't think I needed Wi-Fi because I was on my phone. But anyway, um, it crashed and it stayed crashed. And I'm guessing that what must have happened is there were too many people on their devices, and somehow it it caused a cyber burp or something. Okay, that happened to me when I was in DC trying to do the cherry blossom park. I mean the cherry blossoms, the festival. I got down there. It started up great. 5 minutes later, not so much anymore. Anyway, plus it's noisy here, very noisy. So I'm not quite sure how I want to deal with this. Maybe I will go down the street where there's a picnic table and it's kind of away from all the traffic too. I think that's the best bet. So I'm going to go back here and lock my car, and then we'll get a little tour walking down the street. Oh, it's probably showtime now too, isn't it? Oh, not quite. A couple minutes. That's all right. Mm-hmm. Lock my car. Somebody's got a dog. Probably an attack dog in one of those stores. Okay. Okay, everybody locked. All right. Locked and loaded. Not loaded, just locked. Okay. So, okay, we might as well begin. Got a whole 30 seconds, right? Before it's 6 o'clock on the dot, right? Put my keys around my neck so I don't lose them. Should put my hat on my head too, because I know it's going to be chilly shortly. It's chilly now, really, but it's going to get chillier. So, got to be ready. Lots of buffering and then nothing for that tour. Yeah, that it's kind of like what happened to me too. I don't know. I guess there obviously are some situations where that happens, but I want to understand why. And if I knew why, then maybe I would know how to avoid it or fix it or whatever. But I just don't understand that. Oh, it's anyway. Okay, so let let me start here. Um, Hello, good evening, everybody. Sharon here, also known as Bay Lady. Except I'm not on the bay at the moment. I am on the mighty Patapsco River, which empties into the bay. So, um, we're here in Ellicott City. Ellicott City is one of my favorite places on the planet. Oh my goodness. For a little city, it packs quite a punch. A lot of things to do here, lots of cool things to do here. And it's also one of the, let's see, one of the most active areas in Maryland for paranormal activity. They have a whole lot here. Ellicott City has a lot of history, a lot of history. It's been around for 250 plus years, okay? And it's been through everything. It's one of the most resilient places I've ever heard of. It's been burned. It's had a war fought here. It's been flooded countless times. Yet it kept growing. So many lives have been lost here. The little town always prospered. It was a mill town, and it lies on the banks of the Patapsco River, something that is necessary to run power to the mill. So the mighty river brought them um, wealth, stability, jobs, provided homes. I mean, it built this town, but the cost was pretty substantial. So that is just a little bit about the ghost tours, but we're not here about that. Okay, the ghost tours here in Ellicott City have some competition, and I'll just get to that in a minute. I'm across the street and walk a little bit, and I'm going to turn the camera around. Um, just uh, just a couple things. Watch for me on Rickshaw Tours. It's a new platform that is kicking off like any minute. So watch for me on there. I'll be around. I'll be here still too, and I'll get that good stuff. If you enjoy my tours and you're able, I could use your support. I love coffee. Seriously, I do. Starbucks. But anyway, I have a platform, buymeacoffee.com, where you can donate to my expenses here, right? It's always appreciated. So anyway, back to why we were here. At where we're standing, where I am right now, and hold on, you don't need me. I keep saying that and then don't do anything about it. Yeah, okay. Um, so this is where we just were. That first building on the left, it's called the trolley stop. Just remember that later, okay? Because it features in one of the stories that I have here to share. We are in Baltimore County, on the Baltimore County side of the river, and we're going to walk across this bridge over the river and under the railroad bridge to get to the Howard County side of Ellicott City, where we're going to find a really cool place to sit down that has light. Yes, indeed, you'll see. Um, we're here because a local guy by the name of Jerry Lee Harlow wrote a couple books about the zombie snowmen of Ellicott City. He decided that the ghost tours, were getting too much attention, that there were other things that were equally as damaging and as sinister. And so he wanted to provide a little recognition here for what he called a very a good secret, a well kept secret. Up top there, I don't know if you can see it above the street light, but that's a castle up there. So kind of put that in the back of your memory for a second, a few seconds, for a minute. And now you're looking at the river again. Oh, Ronnie Lynn, hello. Hello, hello, dear. Hello. So, this book, actually, he wrote two, old Jerry did. And he got his buddy, a local artist, to take care of the illustrations. Okay. So, the guy's name is Wiley Perky, and he did all the drawings in this little book that you are about to see. And here we are. This is a famous railroad bridge. I've got a story about it too. Tonight's full of stories. Got a few in this book. His second edition is a little bit larger than the first book, actually. He's got more stories in it. Oh, wow. Glad I didn't try to park down here. It's crowded downtown. Yeah, there's a story about that. The railroad bridge. That spot you're looking at, true story. Two young ladies, 19 years old, were killed there a few years back. They were sitting up there. I think probably on the other side though. Dangling their feet over the edge, right? They were taking selfies and posting them on social media. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and they're just hanging out, literally, really. Well, I told you Ellicott City has a history, okay? Well, I'll be darned. This at that very moment that they were sitting up there, chilling, talking, having a good time. Um, I can cross now. Hold on a second. Along comes a train, a coal train, right? Train full of coal, and it derails and spills the coal. The girls are killed instantly, crushed by the cold, but cold. So, yeah, absolutely insane. That's a true story. Um, I haven't heard any ghost tales about it yet. I guess that type of tragedy is a little fresh. Also, in 2016, um, they had a really horrendous flood here, and two people were lost then. So, haven't heard any ghost stories yet, but maybe in the generations to come we will. Okay, here is the book. You see, I want you to see it really well. Oh, the shadows being weird. It's crazy. Okay, so it's the zombie snowmen of Ellicott City. Okay, more stories of the icy undead. And there are your credits. Jerry Lee Harlow wrote it, and Wiley Perky illustrated. So, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to sit this camera down, okay, and let you like, I'll shift it every now and then so you can like study the surroundings, right? And I'll show you what we're looking at, like there on the. This is the back cover, and that is one of Wiley's illustrations. And the lighting here is making shadows everywhere, isn't it? Crazy. Um, but it just didn't seem right to do this one at night. Yeah, the other Ellicott City, the ghost tours. No way am I going to do those at night. Those scare me. Zombie snowmen, not so much. Okay, here we go. In the second volume, the author and his sharp zombie research staff, working with the printing team at Patapsco Falls Press and Cheesemongers, Ellicott City, have dug even deeper into the legends that surround the unfocused phantasm linked to the zombie snowman legend. To the logical, focused mind, there is a definite implausibility of something so spectral, centered within an area defined as no more than a few miles up and down the Patapsco River from Ellicott City. That's where we just were up there, that very river. So this continued look into the stories of the icy undead has had its detractors, especially from those who want Ellicott City to be seen only as an idyllic small town America, not telling the truth of these creatures who love nothing more than a tasty brain served fresh and quivering in a nicely cracked open skull. Yeah. Really? Really, really? There's the old railroad station. That's the first railroad station in the country, okay? And the oldest is still working. Kind of cool. All right, so let's dive into this book now. Ta-ta-ta-ta. Okay, the first story, it's called, hang on, She Was a Gypsy Woman. Let's see. See what she looks like. His artwork is really Wiley's artwork. It's really colorful. You know, it's interesting that how well his art complements Jerry's words, right? They're two peas in the pod, if you ask me. Okay, so she was a gypsy woman. somewhere in the spring of 1839, about the time the Howard District was being created from Anne Arundel County, a gypsy woman, Shelta, moved into Ellicott Mills and took up residence in a ramshackle on in a ramshackle one-story frame building up on the hill off Main Street. She was quiet, and her business of telling fortunes seemed from seemed frowned upon by all. But many backdoor visitors slipped her into the parlor to hear their fate told, with payment enough to assure her purse was never in want of coins, silver, or gold. As the days progressed into weeks and months, her hours became fewer and fewer, and her appearance not so pleasantly groomed as in the beginning. She fell to an odor disheveled want of a person. Some said she appeared to be lovesick, but nary a man was ever seen in or near her abode. It was early February when the door to her house was seen to be wide open, and there was no response to calls into the house. She was gone, but everything was there: multiple piles of this and that, a purse full of coins, spent by the finder in weeks of visits to surrounding taverns. Within a fortnight, her body was found upriver on the Owella side. That's where we started our little trip here. Ice blue with the top of her skull missing, no brains about. In her cabin was found a sketchbook where she had spent endless hours drawing snowmen, some peaceful, some hard. The sheriff took one look at the book and ordered it to be locked away in the courthouse, and then signed the death certificate, on which the gypsy's death was ruled a suicide. Of course. Now, the gypsy, of course, she lived way. Hey, Judy. She lived way up Main Street. Okay, that's going up Main Street. One of the hills further up. Remember, there's seven hills in Ellicott City. Yes, indeed. Oh, Judy, I'm in your favorite place. I almost had dinner. I was going to do, Judy, I was going to do this from the trolley stop, but they're closed on Mondays. Burst my bubble. I was going to sit over there on their little outdoor deck, all nice as you please. Okay, this one is about the actual mill, which is, let's see, I may be able to get it in the frame here. Maybe not. Uh, I guess not. Well, it's over that away anyway. Ellicott City is always nice to look at. This little place across the street there, that used to be the old hotel with the double doors there. Okay, next story: Death from Above. And they're talking about the old mill just right across the bridge there. There was a time back before the fire that completely destroyed the mill that the workers would take lunch breaks outside the building, standing alongside the towering silos, drinking coffee, eating sandwiches, or smoking. It was a great place to gossip, talk sports and girls, or for new lovers to pretend they were just friends. The silos afforded some protection from the cold and winter wind, and it was a good spot for those folks who just did not want to be in the mill 1 minute longer than they had to be. This was the case even in the deepest cold of winter. One late January evening, a mechanic snuck out of the factory to grab a load of nicotine in a 3 cigarette binge. That was his standard smoke break, as he called it. But the foreman called it cheating and was always within minutes of firing Buck. But good old Buck had the trump card every time there was a confrontation because he was so darn good at what he did. If it was mechanical and needed fixing, Buck could do it. He knew his value. He knew the company would need to hire 2 or 3 people to provide the knowledge and the skill that he possessed, he alone possessed. Here's here's one of the drawings of the old mill. Looks just like it too, with those huge silos. It's a wonder that thing's still standing. Really, I don't think they use it for anything. I never see cars. Well, yeah, sometimes I do. I guess. Who knows? Hard to figure. Okay. Buck was wrapped warmly in his wool coat, pulling hard with his lungs on his first cigarette, and then his consciousness ceased. He was dead, and no one knew it. It was not until the next morning a mill worker coming across the river at the train bridge noticed a body snagged on a tree branch leaning over and above the icy river. Buck was brainless. Most of his bones were broken, and his $5 gold piece was still in his pocket. That coin had been intended as a passage to a good time in one of the Ellicott City taverns. The tavern he liked best always had a good mix of men with money and women without, a fluid situation that changed with time and levels of intoxication. During his official investigation, the sheriff confiscated the coin as evidence and saw to its proper disposition in service to a policeman's party the following spring. Hmm. Okay. Next up. Boo-ba-doo-boo. The slaughter on Hill Street. Hill Street's up where the gypsy lady was. I wonder if they had anything to do with each other. I wonder if they were neighbors. Yeah, the Hill Street is, yeah, way up the street. And it's called Hill Street for a reason. Totally hilly. At the corner of Hill and Main Streets was the residence of Mr. Rankin, who stepped out of his stone duplex home to investigate the small snowman that apparently someone had built on the corner. What light there was came from low on the horizon, beneath the trees and hill, just up the street from behind a mass of swirling gray clouds ripping through the late February afternoon. Sunday supper was cooking, and soon Martha's wonderful vegetable soup would warm his belly. So Rankin stepped in and closed the door. Thinking the snowman odd, Mr. Rankin thought it was awfully risky for kids to be out in the deadly cold of the day. Even his fireplace was nearly insignificant to fight back the cold, driven as it was by the swirling wind. But still, Mr. Rankin opened the door and braved the cold to see about this snowman again. And besides, Christmas and the holidays were far gone, and he didn't want to bother with any more winter foolishness. Quickly, Rankin pushed the snowman into the street wishing that come morning the next passing wagon would run over the stupid snow thing and be done with it. He failed to take note that the snowman did not fall apart as it hit the frozen road. Later, about 7:30, Rankin looked out into the night and noticed the snowman was once again on the corner. He left the little warmth of his house, leaving the door ajar, and somehow met his end after shouting back to his wife, "I'm busting up that darn snowman so the kids can't rebuild it again." Okay, let me let me turn this around. Oh, I know. Are you tired of that view? I bet so. Let me move to the other side of the table. Look at something different. Woohoo, there you go. Okay. But I wanted to show you, okay, Hill Street, and there's the snow dude on the corner. Okay, a menacing snow zombie. Woohoo. Okay, so oh, here you're looking at the table. There we go. Straighten up a little bit. It's kind of dark up that way. That's the old livery stable, and more of the train station on the left. Okay. Less than 5 minutes later, Mrs. Rankin came to the open door, to investigate. Quickly stepped out into the cold and saw her husband dead in the snow. Her life ended with a squeak of screams as she fainted and froze to death within minutes. The Rankins were discovered the next morning, grotesquely twisted in the gutter. The house was open and it was cold. No fire burning in the fireplace, no evidence of what happened to the two people. And the sheriff ruled the deaths accidental and explained Mr. Rankin's missing brains as being eaten by creatures of the night. The sheriff didn't know how right he really was. Okay, that was interesting story. Next, okay. Next is just around the corner behind me. Oh, geez, you were just over there. Wait. Oh, you move around. Oh, yeah. All right. This is all crazy now, anyway. It's all twisted out of shape. Out of, hold on. Let me just hit it with that one time. All right. There we go. Okay. All right. So that is the viaduct. Okay. You can see the top of it. That's where we walked underneath, and where I showed you those poor women were sitting up there, having a little bit of fun there. Okay. Now here is Jerry's drawing of the wreck of this trolley car. Now remember, there used to be trolleys. We had trolleys and trains here. Ooh, that's a nasty looking, um, wow, nasty looking snowman. See, yep, and there's the hotel right there, just like you see. Okay, so wreck of the number nine. Number nine. Didn't what? John Lennon had a song about number nine. There we go. Okay. In, In the first decade of the last century, too many pets and humans were disappearing, as well as the squirrels. The humans were always in and out of town. Pets ran off, but the loss of squirrels was too much to overlook. Ellicott City soups, stews, roasting pans, and breakfast frying would be meatless without the squirrels. Oh no, I like squirrels. Without the squirrels that the Patapsco Valley always supplied in the winter. A man's 22 caliber rifle or a small 410 shotgun could always gather in the squirrels needed for a week or more. A posse had formed to decide what what could be done to keep the suspected poachers, whoever they were, away from the squirrel herds in the valley's treetops, and also to assure even some pets and transient travelers were protected. They took this business serious. It meant food or no food on the table. When the foul weather broke and the number 9 trolley had not departed town, the driver had the option not to proceed, but to keep the trolley in town for safety. And everyone knew that if the weather stinks, so does the trolley service, and not to waste time in the cold waiting for something to come by and pick you up. If the weather was bad, just hunker down and let it pass. The particular night of the encounter was clear and frigid, a bone cracking cold, a cold that knifed through any exposed shin. The posse were up near Hill Street, near to where the trolley was parked for the evening. The group of men each had a large torch to light the night, and the shadows blurs of white slid by in the direction of the trolley. The well armed men twisted right and left to catch sight of what these blurs of light were dashing all around them. While distracted and somewhat confused by the white lightning racing faster and faster about them and past them, the number 9 trolley began moving out onto Main Street and sliding, tilting, and screeching as it picked up speed. Most of the posse stepped out to give chase, but they were still suffering the dizzying effects of the white lightning that had just minutes before gathered them into a confused nest of armed men unable to cope with their situation. As the effects wore off, several men fired at the moving vehicle as it passed the old Disney Hotel, but their were small efforts only succeeded in busting out a window or two. The trolley frightened a horseman riding up the street going to the stables near the road to Washington, causing the animal to rear up on the snow covered street and coming close to crushing the rider when it fell into the road. The rider stood in a stupid daze as the trolley continued down the street. He could not believe what he saw, and he would not tell his story for several years, not until whiskey loosened his brain and his lips. Okay, now I'm going to look over this way a little bit because now the trolley's going to move, you see. And here is that infamous drawing of the train tracks and Charlie sitting sideways across the bottom of Main Street, right? Okay, so as the trolley banged and wobbled down the street, the posse started their chase, passing the rider and now his calmed horse. 2 young men with their torches blazing came close to catching the lumbering trolley. At Maryland Avenue, which is right here. See the street sign? Maryland Avenue. It's right behind me. You got my back to it. At Maryland Avenue, the trolley twisted off the rails and slid sideways down the street until hitting the viaduct and coming to a halt. The crash threw several small snowmen out on the street, where they were ground up into icy pieces. The remaining snowmen gathered in the street in buzzing displays, and yes, in what seemed to be self congratulatory merrymaking, as it was. About this time, old local hobo, Alan Pearson, stood on the road near the crash watching. We'll never know his tale as he was snatched up by the remaining snowmen and dragged off under the bridge. The next morning his body was recovered under that very same bridge, and yes, the top of his head had been twisted off and the brain feasted upon. Lovely, so lovely. Okay, I'm getting to oh, here we go. The Snowman at St. Paul's Church. Let's see if we can see St. Paul's Church. Oh, maybe. Hold on. Let's take a little walk. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, you can see it right. Yep. All right. Now you're probably not going to be able to see it unless you figure out um, unless you're able to enlarge the photo. But hold on. Ooh, headlights in my eyes. That's rude. Not that he's doing it on purpose, but anyway. Okay, so St. Paul's. Let's see. It's going to be. It's up there. I can see it. Okay. Across the street is that triangular shape part of that building kind of jutting out there. It's like it's trimmed in white paint, right? Well, up above that to the left, you can barely see the stained glass windows. They're big arched windows. You can see barely see light on the other side of them, and there's a huge steeple up there for St. Paul's, but it's in the shadows. You can't see it. This is what you would call a moonless night. Oh, that's when the soldier ghost comes out on moonless nights. Oh my goodness. And that would be right there across the street. Woohoo. Yeah, it would. Okay. All right, so let's talk here about the snowman at St. Paul's Church. Here's the drawing. Snowman sitting in front of St. Paul's Church there. Ugly dude. Oh, yeah. Okay. The snowman at St. Paul's Church. The first Mass at the brand new St. Paul's Catholic Church in Ellicott Mills was on Thursday, the 13th of December, 1838. It was an unusually cold and bitter late autumn's day, thick gray clouds swirling about and seeming quite close to scraping the tops of Ellicott Mill's 7 hills, with the temperatures rising no higher than 32 degrees, but feeling much colder with the cutting wind. Mass was celebrated by Father Coskery. He, there was also a baptism of the very first Catholic child in town. As everyone departed the church that afternoon, there was a very large snowman next to the door, standing, it is reported, some 7 feet high. The surly giant of a snowman had large coal eyes that seemed somehow to move about, but were never fully witnessed moving. The light from the clouded sky above was dying quickly, and the last few people were leaving the church. Mr. Bernard Campbell and his friend, the Reverend Mr. White, along with Campbell's wife and their just baptized daughter Mary. Both the men commented on the snowman, um, with Mr. Campbell commenting that maybe it was a prank played by the Protestant community who did not like the Baltimore City Baptist people setting up a church in their town. With the door closed and locked, all retreated to the street below and then over to Main Street where Mr. Campbell had his household staff and slaves preparing supper. It was during the main chorus that, excuse me, that Mrs. Campbell noted that she left a scarf that had clear sentimental connections in the church. She asked her husband to help, so he handed over the key to the front door to Jacob, the teen boy, and told him to scurry over to retrieve Mrs. Campbell's object. An hour passed, but Jacob did not return. Mr. Campbell and Reverend White headed outside in the bitter cold up the hill to the church where the young man had been sent. In the front door was the key unturned and a small amount of blood, just barely enough to be seen in the lantern light. It was also noticed by the Reverend that the large snowman was gone, and maybe this was all related. The Reverend shared his thoughts that maybe the nearby gang of Oella Protestant abolitionists had stumbled across Jacob at the church. The Reverend further speculated that they had convinced Jacob to run away, and so he went. A day later, Jacob's body was found frozen in the river on the Oella side, but very little was said by anyone. The poor lad's skull had been twisted open and was missing his brains, but otherwise he seemed unmolested. The Anne Arundel County Sheriff took statements and made a report, properly filed it, and moved on to his next case, that of a 12-year-old horse thief. A funeral mass was said for Jacob, and his shrouded body buried above the town in the early spring, outside the Ellicott graveyard in common land in an unmarked grave. Okay, they don't treat them very nice, do they? Okay, what next? Oops, still looking. Not all of his stories have to do with our matter at hand here, so I'm selective in reading excerpts of stories. Okay. All right, next up. Hood's Market. That is up Main Street. Going that way, right up Main Street there is where Hood's Market was. The building's still there. It's just not Hood's Market anymore. That's all. Okay, here we go. Hood's Market. Doesn't give us much of a photograph, I mean, of a sketch, but there you go. That was once Hood's Market. Actually, is that not the building across the street? Huh, could be. No, no. Well, okay. In the annals of stories too strange to be true, we close this book too, The Icy Undead, with a story that may be too hard to completely understand, even in the modern age we live in today. The story, as it was uncovered, has no specific date as to the month and year, but I do think it was cold enough to support the icy undead. And there was a mention of the store being a grocery store located on the bottom floor of what was, until recent flooding, a unique and viable part of Ellicott City tourist trade. Apparently, at one time, the grocer located in that same location, bottom space, was called Hood's Market. Hood's Market always conducted business with open doors and with carts and handcrafted stands, usually filled with the fruits and veggies of summer and staples such as potatoes and other root veggies for the winter soup. Excuse me. On a particularly nippy weekday, nearing the end of early winter's daylight, Ralph, the young farm boy, fresh from quitting school, was bringing in the food items in their boxes and getting ready to help in the closing. From out on the street came screams of a couple of late shoppers and raised words of damnation from several winos across the street near the train station. The whirl of light that twisted through and in and about the market was never explained. When the white tornado subsided, Ralph was sitting on the sidewalk, his back against the empty market display tray. His hands were ripped away at his wrists and were twitching out in the street. Hmm. Ralph stared blankly, the top of his head missing. The box of large grade A carrots he was carrying at the beginning of the storm was missing, just as was his brain. Ralph's body was returned to the farm, where the family buried him deep, following an exorcism by the local Catholic priest. Stones were placed on his shroud before the dirt was shoveled in and packed down tight. It was the Irish who buried family members like this, ones who died in circumstances that could not be explained. It was reported, not confirmed, that one of Ralph's cousins leaped into the grave and drove a wooden stake into the body right where the dead heart was located. Years later, when the ground up remains of a suspected zombie snowman was examined by a local scientist from the nearby world renowned community college, the speculation was somewhat surprising. The young scientist postdated that carrot in the face of a zombie snowman was not there for decoration, but was an actual communication device. Somehow, a plain old stewed carrot, when plugged in the face of an icy undead, somehow became a functional link in an exclusive communication system between the undead, somewhat akin to the Borg of television science fiction. The dear scientist wrote extensively on her subject. She wrote constantly, living on undercooked bacon and coffee for many years. The stress of a fully footnoted 500,000 word doctoral dissertation led to her quietly retiring. It is reported that she lives in a quiet, lockdown community somewhere in Tennessee, and that her sole occupation these days is picking the wings off living flies. Death from the zombie snowman of Ellicott City comes in many forms. Huh. Well, la di da. Let's see. We have a note here from oh, it's a poem. Final thoughts. It's a poem from the author Jerry Lee Harlow. Okay, here we go. If I say, let's see, when I was a child, there was a famous song, Teddy Bear's Picnic. Several lines salute: if you go down in the woods today, you better not go alone. It's lovely down in the woods today, but safer to stay at home. For every bear that ever was will gather there for certain, because today's the day the teddy bears have their picnic. But our friend here has changed the words to this: if you go down in the valley today, you better not go alone. It's lovely down in the valley of snow, but safer to stay at home. For every zombie snowman that ever there was will gather there for certain, because today's the day the zombie snowman have their fresh brain picnic. Okay, this guy's got a weird sense of humor. I don't know what to say. But hey, okay, hang on here. Let me see you guys. Yeah, put my camera back up front. Yes. Ta-da! There we are. Okay, guys. You know what? I am freezing. Oh God, my hands are cold. How come it gets so cold so quick? You know, it was like 60 degrees in the sun, and then the sun went down. Oh, goodness me. So, all right, I'm going to go back to my car and turn that heat on. Got my keys around my neck, got my book in hand. Ta-da-ta-ta-ta. So, was that cool? Did you like that? Was that fun? I hope so. I hope that was cool. Um, so that's both books. I did two of them. So I may do them again. Not sure. Winter's coming, and I don't know. We'll see. I may do some ghost tours here during the day or something if it's not too bad. We'll see. Anywho, I am going to go. You all take care. God, enjoy the work week. Here we go. It's another Monday, but at least this one's done. More to come. Later, guys. Bye.